Hello everyone, this is Allison speaking. My group members for the project were Melanie and Kristen, and our topic for the midterm was gender discrimination. Now when we think of gender discrimination within the world of sport, we tend to think of it among women in athletic positions, such as the athletes on sports teams. However, we're going to be taking a look at this from a different perspective and look at gender discrimination in college athletics administrative positions. We often hear the word gender discrimination or inequality within the workplace, but here's the general definition that is given. Gender discrimination involves the unequal treatment of a person based solely on that person's sex, and this is seen in all areas of society. When we hear these words, we tend to think of gender discrimination mostly against women, although there are some cases for men, the majority of them are among women. An easier way for some people to understand the idea of gender discrimination is by the term of a glass ceiling. This is the imaginary career barrier that impedes a woman's ability to rise to the top, while men continue to effortlessly rise to the top. So we'll just keep that in mind while we're learning about gender discrimination throughout our PowerPoint. So another question we often ask is, why does gender discrimination occur? This is a very difficult question because there's no one simple answer for why it occurs. There are just many theories and possible ideas that people have come up with. One of them is that within the sport industry, we see that it's typically or traditionally has been a male-dominated industry, so females haven't had a place in the past in this industry. Another reason for why gender discrimination may occur is because the movements that had been developed to help eliminate gender discrimination were not for administrative positions. They were more specific to athletes and sports teams in collegiate athletics. To go along with this, another reason why we see gender discrimination against females in administrative positions is that there are no networks developed due to the fact that the sport industry was a male-dominated industry in the past. Just taking a look at gender discrimination, it occurred in all areas of society, not just in the world of sport. One article explained that women weren't allowed to own property, they couldn't vote, they couldn't view or participate in sport. So the gender discrimination that we experience in society, unfortunately, has carried over into the world of sport. Also, prior to Title IX, which was the movement that helped to create equality for athletes in collegiate athletics, there were two separate governing bodies, and that was the AIAW and the NCAA. The AIAW took care of women athletes, and the NCAA focused on men. And when these two governing bodies merged, the AIAW lost all the female administrative positions because they were taken on by the male employees in the NCAA. Over the years, there have been movements for gender discrimination. Title IX is the most common one, and it was to help create equality within the athletics world. Again, this focused more on athletes rather than in the administrative positions. Another one that's a bit more recent within the NCAA is the implementation of the position of senior woman administrator. This is a role that is specifically for female employees and cannot be taken by a male. This is just a way to encourage and promote females within the workplace. And another idea that was promoted to help improve gender discrimination issues was gender mainstreaming, and this occurred over in Europe. And the idea of this was to take the emphasis off of individual characteristics and focus more on the systems and requirements of the organization as a whole. So we're just going to take a look at some female administrators in athletics, because we usually hear of cases where females are discriminated against and rarely hear of the success cases that actually do take place. Dawn Hudson worked with the NFL and MLB. She helped to make contract negotiations and endorsements with Pepsi, and she proved to be very successful at this. Bia Perze, she was with Coca-Cola, and she worked with NASCAR, LeBron James, and the PGA, again with marketing, contract negotiations, and she was said to be a very good deal maker, and she also excelled at what she did. Another example of a female administrator that was successful is Nancy Montserrat. She worked with Nike, which was a brand that typically was promoting their products for males. However, she made movements that helped to market to females and developed a whole new realm of sales for the company. Equality for women over time has improved, but there are some cases of discrimination that we still see. One example is with Lindy Vivis and against Fresno State. Vivis was the head volleyball coach and was very successful. She won Coach of the Year 3 years in a row, improved the volleyball team on and off the court. Eventually, she was released due to her apparent inability to meet expectations. However, she claims that she was fired for her gender, marital status, and perceived sexual orientation. Vivis actually ended up winning the case and received $5.85 million for the win. Since society has been placing so much focus on equality for women, especially within the world of sport, we're now starting to see that it may be leading to inequality for men. Here are a few examples. With the implementation of the senior women's administrator position in NCAA institutions, we find that this may be discrimination against the equally qualified males who may excel in that position as well. Another one is Title IX. As in order to include more female sports, some male sports teams have been cut in order to accommodate for the females. And last, with so much emphasis placed on developing equality for women, we see additional treatment and accommodations for women being made due to prior injustices. This is the idea of reverse discrimination. So while we're trying to help one set of individuals, the females, we're actually harming the males. We also see discrimination among other administrative positions in the other areas of sport. In professional sport, we see very few female administrators. For example, Sport Canada is a program that places emphasis on developing professionals within the sport industry. It focuses on both males and females that are interested in sport and develops workshops and conferences to help improve their skills. However, it still shows that very few female administrators are within the sport industry. In high school, they were helped a little bit by Title IX, and in this chart here, we can see the numbers from 1972 to 2007 have increased a shocking amount for females. As a manager, there would be many things to consider with regards to gender discrimination, so here are some proposals. One would be to have stricter rules and actually maintain and follow the rules and regulations outlined by Title IX. Another managerial strategy would be to develop more female-specific positions, such as the senior woman administrator, which would give the opportunity for females to enter the field. I would also ensure that there was a fair and equal hiring process. So right from the get-go, we'd be treating everyone as individuals, not focusing on different traits and characteristics or gender, just treating everyone the same. We also would develop inter-office workshops as a manager. I think this would help to encourage group work and participation because we tend to see that in the workplace, males bond with males and females bond with females. So this would be a way to help them exchange ideas with one another. Along with this, I would help to develop female-specific workshops to help encourage and support the growth of females within the world of sport. This would help create networks for females that weren't developed in the past. Some more strategies would be to have social events for both genders that would be appealing to both males and females. In some of our research, we found that females mention that they feel left out or intimidated because their boss and the male employees go out for drinks after work or go shoot a round of golf, and the females don't feel included in this. Another thing that I would do as a manager would be to educate employees on the consequences. I would bring in guest speakers to educate people and share their experiences just to create awareness and kind of teach them about gender discrimination on a more personal level. I would also make it a point to eliminate any stereotypes within the workplace. I think this would have to start with the highest level management, just to show that there aren't any discriminatory attitudes within the workplace. Another practice that I would do would be to assign equal work duties. I would try my very best as a manager not to pick female-specific tasks for females or male-specific tasks for females, and just assign duties and responsibilities based on what jobs need to be done. I would also, as a manager, implement assistance programs for women in the workplace. This might get a little close to the idea of reverse discrimination, where we're placing a little more emphasis on women, but I think that through our research we found that women said that they were weary of entering administrative or high-ranked positions because they'd have to juggle a lot of work in the workplace as well as a lot of work in the home. Just to conclude, we still see many issues regarding gender discrimination. They're seen everywhere, and it's not specific to one place. It's all over our society, in college, high schools, professional sports, businesses. It's seen everywhere, and it's a problem that still needs to be addressed. Although there have been many movements to help eliminate gender discrimination, there still are trends of inequality between the genders. So we need to keep developing these attitudes of anti-discriminatory behaviors and ensure that we follow the rules of these movements to make progress towards gender equality. Also, I think it's very important to note that managers must monitor their employees and promote these anti-discriminatory attitudes within their workplace. Implementing some of the managerial strategies that we outlined in our PowerPoint, I think, would be a great starting point for managers to help eliminate gender discrimination in the workplace. And one key thing that I think we learned through doing our research is that managers need to handle harmful situations in regards to gender discrimination instead of looking the other way and pretending there isn't a problem. Thank you for listening to our PowerPoint. We hope that you've learned a lot of information about gender discrimination in administrative positions within collegiate athletics and other areas of sport as well. Thank you.